There you go.
So hello, welcome to our show, A Year of Magical Learning, where we read books, we reflect on it, and we discuss about what we learn. So today we have book 46. Chris, can you tell us what book?
You got it. Book 46. It's called The Four Agreements, A Practical Guide to Personal Freedom by Don Miguel Ruiz and Janet Mills. You guys read this one?
No, I've heard about it though.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those books that was on Oprah or something like that.
Yeah.
Took off and became really popular.
Because it went on Oprah?
I think she has some pretty powerful sway over a lot of people, apparently.
She does.
But the book at a high level is about it takes inspiration from a set of spiritual beliefs held by this ancient Toltec people and helps readers to transform their lives into a new experience of freedom, true happiness, and love.
Are the Toltec people like an ancient civilization somewhere, or?
I think they're like an Indian tribe, and I want to say like Mexico, maybe. I'm not sure exactly. I don't think they go too deep into like the origins of the Toltec people, but basically, according to the author, everything a person does is based on agreements they've made with themselves, with others, with God, and with life itself. People tell themselves, who they are, how to behave, what's possible, what's not possible. So it's all about the agreements that we make with ourselves and how to live a life, I guess, with making good agreements with yourself and things of that nature. So my personal reflection, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. My personal reflection title for this one is Words Matter, White Magic versus Black Magic. So the first agreement in the four agreements is always to remember to be impeccable with your words. So this has been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned over the past, couple of years of my life of the importance of language. Humans are incredible, and, we have the ability to imagine and dream up all this, crazy abstract ideas, and they live in our head. But for all we know, like other animals know how to do that as well. I honestly don't know if my dog is the most brilliant being in the world, right? Like she could be over there just imagining stuff all day, every day, and putting together abstract concepts and just popping out. She's like a doggy Einstein for all I know. I have no idea. But one of the things that separates us, as we all know, from everybody else is we're somehow not only able to have that crazy imagination, but then we're able to put it into words and use those words to communicate to other human beings, to literally take an idea out of your head and somehow communicate it so other people can understand, see it, visualize it, and take that to heart and create something with you of it. So this book was such a great reminder for me, the power that our words have over ourselves and over other people, and always reminds me to always be impeccable with your word, because it matters. That's literally, an idea is amazing, but it doesn't mean anything if we can't communicate it and share it with other people. And we've talked at length about the importance of, humans working together and, don't do it alone. And that's another reason why we are who we are as the incredible human race, our ability to communicate and to help each other. Black magic versus white magic. The author talks about, when you use your words for good, he calls it white magic. And when you use your words for bad, it's black magic. So it's a good reminder to always use your words for good. That was an important lesson that I learned from this particular book. So the question I can pose you guys, I'd love to get your thoughts on the book itself, your thoughts on the importance of words and human communication. And then the question that I can pose to the broader group is, how can you use your words to promote more good in this world? So I don't know who wants to go first, but I'll turn it over to you guys.
First question, True, how can you use your words to promote more good in the world?
I think words is one of the tools that we have at our disposal to communicate the ideas. I think the ideas and how we can formulate them and pass it on, that's a superpower. But I don't think word alone itself is supreme, just because you can draw pictures, you can communicate in other ways, whether that's Morse code or whatever the case may be. I think it's a tool, a channel that you use. So it's one of the channels. But I agree with your reflection title. Words matter because words are your ideas. It's a representations of your ideas and ideas. Because when different word will elicit different ideas, and so if you are not careful with it, it may insinuate something different. And when you do that, then people have misunderstanding, and misinformation is what gets disagreement. And from there you have conflict. And I think that creates the chaos, and the chaos brings pain, right? But your words are going to be either used for good or for bad, because if you use for good, your word transform your emotion, and your emotion transform your action, and your action transform the result. The result is what is either good or bad for the world, right? And so the origin of your idea and how you express it, it is super, super important. So if you're not careful and use it without carefully trying to, kind of like decipher which word are better to use, then you may lose the meaning of what you had intended, right? And so
Right.
just like when you have 10 people in line and you whisper your ideas to one person, that person whisper to the next person, and the next person whisper to the next person. By the time it gets to the end of the person, the 10th person, your idea kind of got completely different from what you had intended. And so that's the reason why you want to use the word carefully, because it's like copying. When you copy something, right, you only get 97% or whatever percent of the accuracy. And then the copy of the copy is even more less accurate. And so
Right.
if you do that 10 times or 20 times or 100 times, right, what happened to your original versus the one you copy is completely different.
Right.
So, I think word matters. And I think, to me, word is one of those neutral where you can use it for good or you can use it for bad based on your intent. And I think it has to do with the wielder of the words. And so for me, if you, to me, and also like to me, if you say, something is good for somebody, it's bad for someone else.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So it's not always black and white and say, hey, white magic was black magic, because the thing is, to a white person, to a white wielder of magic, right, the black magic guy is the enemy, and to the black magic wielder, the white guy is the enemy. So who's right, who's wrong? Right? Because each one of them say, hey, I want to better the world in my own way. You just put a label on me and say, hey, I'm the black magic wielder, and versus you're the good. You just self-proclaim to be good. So to me, there's a lot of, I guess, gray areas that some of these concepts and ideas that we need to kind of take with a grain of salt, just because not everything is black and white. And I think agreeing your reflection and words matter. And so you got to choose it carefully to, I guess, protect the ideas you want to spread, because you don't want that to change on its own and have its own life. And you have no control whatsoever once you utter the words.
Agree. Yes.
Yeah, true. I like how you talked about how your words can end up getting misconstrued. Communicating one-on-one is already hard enough, and there's so much miscommunication that goes on. Even just subjectively, what I think something might mean is actually a little bit different than you. Fewer words is better because there's less chance for misunderstanding. It's a tricky balance because you have to explain yourself, but the more succinct and articulate you are, the better, because you won't have as much miscommunication.
I think that's an important part, that we've been talking about how we communicate to other people. To your point, and to both of your guys' point, if you're not impeccable with yourself, if you don't understand what you're trying to do yourself and what your North Star is, what's the point of the words you're trying to say? I think it starts with being impeccable with your word to yourself. Like if you say that, and that goes to integrity for me at this point in time. Like I look at my core values and I say, am I living this? Like, is this what I wanted to do? And if it is, then I have the confidence to say, I know how I want to describe this to somebody else. And I know how I want to project what I'm doing in the ideas that come into this world in a deliberate fashion. If I don't use that and I'm just like going off the cuff and arguing with somebody, like I'm not being impeccable with my word at that point in time. I'm just talking. And that's where I think, for me, white magic versus black magic comes into play. It's like, as Drew always makes fun of me. I love to talk. Like that's something that I like. It's a supernatural skill for me. I just enjoy it a lot. But at the same time, most of my life, I haven't really ever thought about what I was trying to say. It's not that I don't think, it was just that I wasn't being deliberate about what I was trying to say. I think that's been one of the biggest changes over the past couple of years, is trying to be impeccable with your word. What you're saying and what you're doing means something, and to get that point across.
Yeah, because a lot of times we talk because we want people to sometimes think the same way that we think. We want to be accurate with our words because we want to point out like, hey, that's what that is. that is a white rhino right there. And so that's part of like kind of like, I forget what book I was reading, but it was talking about like, you know, whether it's you want to have your genes go on so you have people who look like you want to have your words and your thoughts go on so people think like you. And I think that just comes down to just more about this, like the clarity and like the purpose and the intention. And you're right, Chris, you do really need to know yourself about what you want to do and what's your purpose and what's your values. And I think I'm struggling with that a little bit right now because I don't know if like my job completely like lines up with my values. And it makes me think of the book 7 Habits, putting first things first. And I'm realizing like I need to put more things first. Like, do I really like my job? Is my job really something I want to be doing? And I've noticed I can kind of mask it with other things in life to like make it more okay. But kind of that same like intention with like our words and our actions. I mean, because words are really just like sort of vocalized thoughts, I guess. So, you know, also being like intentional with your thoughts almost. It's like kind of being impeccable with your thoughts, and whether that's why like meditation or time alone can help, or just, you know, or whether it's talking
Writing or just
writing.
writing.
You know, be impeccable with your thoughts.
I love that. It's that's got to be step one, right? Like, I mean, you can't be impeccable with your words.
Right. You have to understand your thought clearly first before you can transmit, you know, vocalize it in a way for people to understand. Because if they don't understand it and they don't see it clearly, they won't copy and they won't pass it on. So, you know, your idea is not going to go far just because.
And it's got to be something that they feel like there's value in, you know? So whether you're giving directions to Dunkin' Donuts or, you know, directions on how to live a good life, it comes down to like, like, is there purpose in, I mean, because we all can feel like even in this roundabout chat, we can feel like there's purpose to our words. Otherwise we wouldn't be saying them.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't have written this out. Like, I mean, I wouldn't do any of this stuff if I honestly, writing has been the single most important thing for me personally that has helped me to become more impeccable with my word. Right. Like, I mean, it's not something that I think of like arguing a political topic or whatever. Throw me into it. And like, I love to engage and I love to argue. And I'll go point for counterpoint just because I love to do it, you know, but like at the end of it, you're probably would just been just as lost as you were when you began on either side of it. Like, I didn't have a point. It was more just to get out there and verbally engage, you know, like it's when you have to take the time to sit down and write to get your thoughts in order. Like you said, you know, your thoughts need to be impeccable before your words can be impeccable. Like, it's easy for me to rattle off all these things as how they relate to my values and my purpose these days, because I've been writing about them for the past 2 years. You know, I wrote a book, I wrote another one. Like, yeah, I mean, these, like, my thoughts have become crystallized through my own words, and then I can more eloquently speak them to you guys, you know, or to anyone else, right? That wants to listen.
Right. So word on paper is what I think that's an important process to solidify your ideas and your thoughts, because thoughts are basically flying around in your head, right? And when you talk, it's not necessarily going to be in any kind of order or patterns until you can write it out. And so when you write out, you're being forced to pick the thoughts that is flying around and then pin them in the right order, in the right pattern, so that it is understood by some reader. And so I think if you can take your thoughts and write it first, then say it, I think that would make it much clearer. Like, you want to be impeccable with your words. And I think that's a good process. It's a good exercise to follow if you want to have that result.
Yeah, it makes me think about a tree. I mean, it makes me think of, like, you know, it was last week, I think we were talking about trees, and you know how a tree is just something like it is where it is. It's rooted. It's been growing slowly. And Chris, kind of like how you talk about your writing, how you've been solidifying your thoughts and your ideas and your values all into like this tree trunk almost. It's been growing for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's easier to, I think, be someone when you aren't changing so much. You know, I think
or you are changing. Like, trees change. Trees change dramatically.
Well, I guess I just think about, like, let's say from when you're 12 years old to when you're 30, you know, there's a lot of change that happens there. And so I think it's I want to maybe even say easier for us as we grow older to be like, actually kind of, these are my values, this is who I am. And because also that kind of like, I feel like gives us more of an identity. Like if we're constantly changing, then like, who are we in a way? Like, sure, there's like subtle changes, like agree, Chris, but like if we're completely changing, like, oh, I'm for abortion, no, I'm against abortion. Oh, I'm pro guns.
Right.
Like, what are our values? I don't think we can believe something unless it's stable. The word "the" means "the." So in terms, we can't believe if somebody has integrity. Like someone won't have integrity unless they're solid. So I feel like
I love your tree metaphor. I mean, your analogy.
Yeah.
I would call it intentional growth, right? Like trees
Mm.
grow a certain direction and intentionally, right? Like they could grow all over the place if they wanted to. Like they could be, you know, like vines or something like that. Vines just go everywhere, right? Trees have intentional growth. Like you said, they're rooted. They have a plan and a direction, and they concentrate all that power and then grow long and live forever and yada yada yada. You know, I think your tree metaphor is a great one when it comes to like the power of intentional growth versus just scattered growth all over.
That is scattered growth, yeah.
Right.
But sort of that intentional growth.
That's a good thought.
So
Sure,
any final thoughts?
No, that was good.
That was just like the first section about the be impeccable with your word, but is that like you feel like what you got most out of it?
Yeah, so that's what I do with these. It's not necessarily like a recap of the book. It's what I learned most from the book.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it wasn't like there's rare books where I'll do like, you know, like a 5-part reflection or something along those lines, you know, of books that I learned a lot from, that I wanted to document from. But, you know, with this particular book, I mean, this is the thing that sticks. This is what I like to call my memory palace. Like this is what I remember from this book, and this is what sticks, and this is what I wanted to matter about it. You know, like when we've gone back and read 7 Habits again or something along those lines. Yes, there was a lot of things in that book, and that's one of them that I wrote like a 5-part reflection for. Like there's hidden gems when you go back and read these books. And I'm sure if I went back and reread the 4 Agreements, I'm sure I would come up with another idea or thought or reflection that really stuck with me. This is a journey as I'm going. This is just what stuck at the time and what I decided I wanted to share with the world. Sure, go ahead.
I say sometimes, you know, the lessons that we talk about has nothing to do with the book. It just happens to inspire us to say, you know what, this is what we learned because, you know, by reading this book, it just sparks in our head about these lessons, and we want to talk about and we want to learn about it and we want to put into practice. Like, you know, today's word is about be careful with your word. You know, how are you using it for good versus evil? Because sometimes, you know, if you unintentionally put things out there that is not what you meant, you could cause harm to other people or cause misunderstanding and cause pain to the people who listens to them.
Yeah, I mean, think about if you wanted to become like a social media influencer or something like that, and you didn't have that rooted, intentional thought behind that, and you were just throwing out quote after quote every single day of like, you know, Buddha, today it's Buddhism, and tomorrow it's this, and the next day it's that, and they're all over the place. And for some reason, let's just say it caught on to other people, and then they're like, well, what are you doing? Did you actually, you find out someday that they don't even practice, do any of this stuff, or, you know, actually live their life this way? You're like, well, this, you know, the integrity is gone. Like, it'll never credible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's true. Like people are only as influential as they back up their word with their actions.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like when we end up calling people out who aren't true to their word, because it's so much easier to be just, you know,
see, it's authentic versus hypocrisy. You know, I can say anything, but if I don't follow it, then I'm just a liar.
Right.
I mean, but we're all hypocrites at some level. It's almost like we can change, let's say. Yeah, because I think we do change. I think we're all hypocritical.
Here's the difference is when you have intentional growth or intentional whatever design, yes, you are going to find yourself being hypocritical every once in a while with your words, and then you correct it. Like it's not, you remember what the path is and you go, I'm going to fix that because this is not aligning to what I XYZ, right? Like to those values or whatever. That's the biggest difference is, you know, to be impeccable with your word long term and to have that intentional growth. You're going to have branches that go the wrong direction, but eventually, you know, you say, okay, like where are we going? What is the purpose here? What are the values that you're anchored in? And then that's when you can
also, if you do think like yourself like a tree growing out, like you find you like one branch growing one way, but you can work in kind of like cutting that limb off. Though it's like, hey, no, that actually wasn't good, you know?
I mean, but you have to have intentional thought and then intentional words behind to be able to get you back to growing straight, you know, I guess.
And sometimes you have misinformation, misinformation making because, I didn't know this or I didn't know that back then. For example, if I shine an artificial light on a tree, it starts growing that way. And then certainly after, a month or whatever, I took it away. Well, it's not going to go that way. It's going to follow the sun, right? So its intentional growth wasn't in the direct, like whatever the intentional growth was, right? That was a fake thing, right? So it's the misinformation that we get but at the same time, going back to the core, if it points to the sun or points to whatever that core value is, it's still going to be the correct way. Yes, you're going to have things where you say, well, I believed this back then because I only knew this and that, but I didn't know the extra piece of information I know now that actually changed the way I believe in things or the way I see things.
Yeah, because we do get new information and that can change the way we think of things.
Adapt. Like, I mean, it allows you to morph as long as you're still going toward your purpose or values or something like that. You can add to it, you can grow, you can revise it.
I think I realize that I can struggle with it in terms of that intentionality. That Jonathan Haidt book, Happiness Hypothesis, sort of your intentional brain and your elephant. And I feel like that's where I can get off course if I just am my elephant. I don't think is very intentional,
No.
Whether that can be like eating a bunch of snacks or just doing things kind of crazy. That's where I can find the elephant isn't very intentional,
Actually, I'm gonna challenge you on that. I think the elephant is super
intelligent.
Yeah. I think the writer isn't intentional.
Really?
Oh yeah.
No, I think the opposite because your elephant only knows that one particular intention.
Path. Yeah, he has one path.
And it does it until you tell him that, hey,
I think of myself binge eating at night or whatever.
But that's an emotional thing that you're doing with your writer.
Its intention is when you eat and this trigger, I'm going to eat. And that's intentional purpose as well.
That's true. It is very intentional. Yeah.
So the intent is basically what is it doing to get rid of the pain or whatever. It's going to do that because you triggered it. And so the conscious is going to be very, I guess, the most hypocritical just because it changes all the time.
Yeah.
The elephant, they don't, unless you beat it up and say, hey, go left, right? Until you beat them enough, then it will change its intentions and it will continue to follow that. So that's in terms of creating habits. But the elephants are it has its own very directive. It follows that only, regardless whether it's bad for you or not, it will do it.
Yeah.
That was good.
I love the Monday 6 o'clock chat. So Chris, it's great to hear the books you're reading and Trio. I just love the dialogue we have.
All right, everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining. And the question we can leave for y'all is, how can you use your words to promote some more good in this world? We'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right.